The Memphis sky is heavy with humidity as the sun dips below the hospital's red brick facade. On the shaded balcony of Ward 7, 9-year-old Jenny Clark sits in her wheelchair, hair fallen thin from treatment, one arm swaddled in bandages that can't hold the weight of her small, exhausted body. Beside her, her mother's voice trembles through the same newspaper clipping. Elvis Presley, to perform benefit show this Saturday, repeated for the 100th time. Jenny's lips part in a whisper. I only want to hear his voice once. Right here. But the doctor's words cut the air cold. She won't survive the trip, and there are no tickets. In that pregnant silence between hope and impossibility, a plea takes shape, unspoken, yet impossible to ignore. The fluorescence above room 312 hummed like a distant engine, casting a wan wash across linoleum that gleamed too cleanly for comfort. Grady Johnson paused in the corridor, his mop stilling in a drip bucket. He'd been on the night shift for nearly a decade, eyes half closed from hours of scrubbing tile, his breath mixing with the antiseptic odor that clung to everything. Yet the soft crack of a mother's voice pulled him from his routine. Just once, the mother whispered. I'd give anything for her to drift off to that song. Grady's worn fingers clenched around the mop handle. He did not know the two faces behind the open door, only that the child inside, Jenny Clark, had been too fragile even to lift her head. Her mother sat in a plastic chair, reading the same newspaper clipping. Benefit concert, Elvis Presley live Saturday. The words felt like both promise and impossibility. Later, in the break room's narrow sliver of silence, Grady sat at a metal table and ran a trembling hand over the harmonica in his pocket, his instrument stolen from a jazz band in his youth, its reeds cracked but still alive. He closed his eyes and imagined Jenny's pale face, the single wish she could no longer voice. Rising, he retrieved a battered portable tape recorder from his locker. The casing bore dents from years of accidental drops. Its buttons creaked on command. He pressed record and spoke into the microphone in a hushed tone. Miss Clark won't talk much, but she listens when music fills her ears. She doesn't need lights or cameras. She just needs a voice. He paused, thumb hovering. If you're out there, Mr. Presley, come quietly, like a shadow in the moonlight. Give her the song she'll carry to sleep. The tape clicked as he pressed stop. The next morning's mailroom brimmed with fan letters, charity proposals, and press releases. Tucked beneath the usual mountain of fan mail was Grady's cassette, its brown paper sleeve scuffed and stamped with a hastily scrawled urgent. It nearly went unnoticed, unlabeled, without return address, before landing among Elvis's personal collection. That night, gripped by curiosity, Elvis steered toward his private studio deep within Graceland. He slipped the cassette into a vintage recorder, its foam button sinking under his fingertip. As the hiss faded, Grady's soft voice emerged. She doesn't have long. Just one moment. One note to rest her weary heart. Elvis closed his eyes, the ambient glow of control panels and gold records fading. For a long minute, he did nothing but listen. No orchestration, no fanfare, only the heartfelt plea of a man whose life revolved around a child's final wish. In that studio's shadows, fame's burden lightened. He was no longer a spectacle, but simply a man called to respond. He rewound the tape and replayed the line. What if I don't sing for her, he murmured to himself, but with her? His voice barely rose above the tape's soft whirs. He dialed his pilot's number. Pack my overnight bag. We're not headed to Jacksonville. We're going to the hospital. Room 312. By dawn, the Learjet's engines would hum across Tennessee's skies, bearing a star dressed not in sequins, but in a quiet determination to bring one final lullaby to a girl who needed it most. The morning sunlight slanted through the high windows of Baptist Memorial Hospital, catching dust motes that drifted in the still air. Hallways were hushed, save for the distant beep of monitors and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes. Elvis Presley stepped from the rear entrance clad in an unremarkable gray suit, no cameras or crowd in sight. His sunglasses hid weary eyes. His usual swagger had been replaced by a quiet purpose. A single rose, white and fragrant, was pinched between his fingers. At the nurse's station, the head RN, a tall woman with steely composure, met him with a raised brow. "Mr. Presley," she said evenly, "this isn't part of the weekend benefit." Elvis offered the rose. "I'm not here for the show. I'm here for Jenny Clark." The nurse's expression softened ever so slightly. "Room 312, she whispered, key in hand. She led the way down a corridor where the walls bore photographs of smiling children and painted murals of hopscotch grids. Beyond a door marked in faded block letters, she unlocked a latch and stepped back. Inside, the room's pale walls glowed in late morning light. A lone bed held Jenny, her hair gone thin from chemotherapy, one arm swaddled in gauze as though protecting a fragile branch. Tubes snaked into her small frame, and the rhythmic hiss of a ventilator underscored every breath. Beside her, her mother hovered in a vinyl chair, eyes swollen yet alert. Elvis paused in the doorway, clearing his throat softly. "Hi, Jenny." His voice was a gentle chord. Jenny's eyelids fluttered open. For a moment she stared, disbelief and wonder warping her features. "You're real?" she whispered. Her voice was a fragile thread. He dropped to one knee, placing the rose on the bedside table. "As real as your favorite song," he said, "and I'm here to sing it with you, if you'd let me." The mother rose, tears catching the light. I'm not sure this is allowed." Elvis turned to the nurse. "She asked once," he said simply. "I came to answer." The nurse bowed her head, yielding. "Go ahead," she said, stepping back toward the door. Jenny's gaze flicked between Elvis and her mother. She managed a small nod. "Blue moon," she whispered. He sighed softly, pressing his fingertips together in a moment of quiet prayer. "Blue moon it is." He settled on the edge of her bed, voice hushed yet steady. The first notes drifted from his throat in a low hum, more intimate than any studio recording. He matched his pitch to the ventilator's rhythm, each phrase a gentle cradle. Jenny's lips curved in the slightest of smiles, and her fingers twitched toward the mattress's edge. As the melody unfolded, his voice trembled with empathy. No guitar, no band, just his bare vocals blending with her ragged inhalations. Halfway through, Jenny joined him in a soft counterpoint, her rasping, "Blue moon, you saw me standing alone," weaving with his richer timbre. Elvis adjusted his phrasing to support her fragile tone, a backing vocalist in miniature. The mother's shoulders relaxed, tears sliding silently down her cheeks, as the two voices intertwined in a lullaby neither would ever forget. When the final whispered "once in a while" faded into the hush, room 312 seemed to exhale. Elvis laid a hand on Jenny's blanket, fingertips brushing her own. "Thank you," he said softly. "That was beautiful." Jenny closed her eyes, exhausted but elated. It felt like home. Elvis rose, smoothing his jacket. Before leaving, he unbuttoned his lapel to reveal a small pin, an emblem of a moon and star. He pressed it gently into Jenny's palm. "So you can carry this moment with you," he said. Outside in the corridor, the nurse and mother exchanged stunned glances. Elvis walked toward the exit as quietly as he had arrived, sliding sunglasses back over his eyes. He paused in the hallway's pale light, glanced once at the closed door of room 312, then stepped back into the muted bustle of the hospital, leaving behind the lingering echo of a song made sacred by its tenderness. The morning after whispers still hummed through Graceland when Elvis called his manager into the study. He sat behind his desk, fingers tracing the edge of the ivory telephone receiver as his gaze rested on a single sheet of paper. Outside, the air carried the first sighs of autumn, but inside, the hush between two heartbeats held more weight than any standing ovation. "Next Saturday," Elvis said without preamble, "I'm not appearing at the Coliseum. Instead, I'm playing in the lobby of St. Jude's Children's Hospital. No tickets, no press." The manager froze mid-stride, mouth opening and closing like a stunned fish. "But sir," Elvis held up a hand, "there's no sir here. Just me." He slid the paper across the desk, a simple memo reading, "Benefit Concert, St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Saturday 2 p.m., no admission." Below, in Elvis's own scrawl, another line, "For the children who listen, not the crowds." The manager's eyes darted to the phone, presumably to call publicity, to secure a larger venue, to spin this into the next big headline. But Elvis rose, buttoning his jacket and smoothing a wrinkle from his cuff. "Some stories don't belong on a stage," he said. "They belong in the arms that need them." By midweek, rumors had leaked. "Elvis Presley cancels arena dates, will perform at hospital." Headlines sputtered. Executives and agents sputtered. The manager pleaded, "It's a PR disaster. No scale, no cameras." Elvis only smiled, a quiet grace that silenced further protest. "Then let it be a whisper," he replied, voice soft but unyielding. On Saturday, long before the midday sun cast its first shadows, Elvis and a skeleton crew arrived at St. Jude's through the side entrance. He wore a dark sweater and custom-tailored slacks, nothing to draw more attention than necessary. His entourage moved like silent sentinels behind him, wheeling in a modest amplifier, a single microphone on a bare stand, and a guitar case bearing no labels. The hospital's courtyard lay between two brick wings, its pavement punctuated by benches and potted palms. Parents pushed wheelchairs in gentle circles, the children's faces lit by anticipation and filtered sunlight. Nurses in crisp whites directed them toward the makeshift stage, a cleared spot in front of the children's playroom windows. A few balloons, tethered to the handrail, bobbed lazily in the breeze. As Elvis stepped onto the paved platform, the courtyard fell into a hush more complete than any theater blackout. No fanfare. No ushers flashing light sticks. Only the soft rustle of hospital gowns and the distant hum of oxygen machines leaking through open windows. He placed his guitar strap over his shoulder and lifted the microphone. "I know you didn't come for a show," he began, voice gentle as a lullaby, "but I hope this song can be a friend to you when you need it most." He opened with the same lullaby that had carried Jenny Clark's final wish, "Blue Moon," but this time, his rich timbre cradled each child like a whispered reassurance. Parents leaned forward, tears glimmering under their masks. A little boy in a wheelchair, eyes bright behind thick glasses, mouthed the words with Elvis, as though conjuring hope from the melody. After a second song, a hushed gospel tune meant for healing, Elvis paused, scanning the courtyard. Behind him, on the children's playroom window, someone had taped Jenny Clark's drawing, a crayon sketch of moon and stars above a small figure standing in light. Elton Cassidy, one of the hospital volunteers, slid a portable projector onto a stool and angled it so the image glowed against the smooth brick. "Jenny gave me this picture," Elvis said, voice quivering with reverence. "She said it reminded her of the songs we share when the world is still." He strummed the opening notes of Moonlight Serenade, a soft arrangement he had practiced only once before that morning. As the melody unfurled, the projected drawing pulsed behind him, its colors deepening in the warm light. A handheld camera, operated by a father whose son fought leukemia, rolled silently on a tripod. No crew, no broadcast van. The frame captured only the simple convergence of a singer and his small audience. The song drifted over wheelchairs and crutches, seeping into the quiet corners of every heart present. Children's heads bobbed, eyes closed in peaceful surrender, while parents wept silently, cradling each other's hands. When the final chord dissolved into the afternoon air, Elvis set his guitar aside and bowed his head. The courtyard remained still until a single clap rang out, hesitant but determined. A nurse joined in, then another parent, until applause edged through the silence like ripples on glass. Elvis raised his hand, fingers splayed in farewell. "Thank you for sharing your time with me," he said. "I'll carry you in my heart." Without cameras, without fanfare, he stepped off the platform and into the arms of history that would carry that moment long after the hospital gates closed for the day. The video from the father's camera would surface years later, grainy, unlisted, yet precious beyond measure, so that those who never saw it could still believe in the quiet power of a song meant solely for a single soul. A week after that courtyard performance, the hospital corridors felt emptier than ever. The beeps and whispers continued, but room 312 remained silent. Jenny Clark had slipped away in her sleep the night before. In the hush of dawn, her mother lingered beside the bed, brushing a lock of pale hair from the pillow, tears pooling without sound. The sun cast a weak warmth through the blinds, illuminating the vacant bed. Just as she reached to close Jenny's eyes one final time, a quiet knock at the door startled her. Entering without fanfare, Elvis Presley stood framed in the doorway. His dark suit was the same he'd worn at St. Jude's, but his face was softened by exhaustion and grief. In his hands, he carried a small wooden box, its lid tied with a single piece of white ribbon. The mother's gasp caught halfway, disbelief and sorrow etched into her features. How did you—" Elvis crossed the room and knelt beside the bedside table. He set the box down gently, then turned to the mother. His voice trembled. "I'm so sorry for your loss. I came to bring something Jenny and I made together." She pressed a trembling hand to her chest, words lodged in her throat. He lifted the ribbon and opened the box, revealing a reel of delicate magnetic tape and a simple note pinned in his handwriting. "For Jenny's voice to live on? No one else will hear this. It's hers alone." Inside the box, alongside the reel, lay a small cartridge labeled 312-Blue Moon Duet. Elvis extracted a portable recorder, loaded the tape, and pressed play. From the speaker emerged his own voice, recorded that day in her hospital room, singing Blue Moon in gentle harmony with Jenny's fragile counterpoint. Every breath, every wavering note of her child's soft voice was preserved as though it were a precious gem. The mother closed her eyes, tears coursing freely now, as Jenny's voice intertwined with Elvis's in that intimate, unreleased duet. It was not a polished track for radio, but a vulnerable testament to the bond between them. When the music stopped, Elvis tucked the ribbon around the empty box and rose, allowing the silence to honor Jenny's memory. "This isn't for sale or broadcast," he said softly. "It's hers forever. May it remind you that her song endures." He placed a gentle hand on the mother's shoulder, and without another word slipped from the room. The white rose from their first meeting lay on the bedside table, the final gift for a little girl whose voice now traveled further than any concert hall. Over the following year, the news of Jenny's passing reached wider circles through whispers among hospital staff and parents. Anonymous donations began arriving at the hospital's foundation office, substantial sums marked only with a single note: "In honor of Jenny Clark." On the first anniversary of her death, Jenny's mother stood before a modest gathering in the hospital's auditorium. A bronze plaque was unveiled above a small scholarship fund bearing Jenny's name. Beneath her handwritten words, "Music is what comes when words cannot speak." Families of other children battling illness found support and hope. No photographs adorned the ceremony, only that handwritten quote shining like a beacon. That evening, Jenny's mother returned to Graceland's grounds for the first time. In the great music room, she placed the wooden box on the piano where Elvis once practiced. She pressed the recorder's play button one last time, letting Jenny's duet echo off the mahogany walls. As the final note faded into memory, she whispered, "Your voice lives on, my sweet girl," knowing that in that preserved harmony, Jenny would never truly be silent.